So the second subject or topic to discuss today then, Mark, is what is harm? Any breach of a person's peace, basically.
Absolutely.
So the topics here are going to be any action without lawful excuse, knowingly making misleading statement in any form, assault, battery, actual bodily harm, grievous bodily harm, police actions, and again, any further resources. So I'll pass that over to you again.
Yeah, so like you said, harm is any unlawful interaction, i.e. you don't have lawful excuse to breach somebody's peace. Legally, this is known as a cause of action. So before somebody intervenes in somebody's peace, they must have a reason. Simple as that. If they don't have a reason, that's a trespass in common law. The first one is knowingly making a misleading statement in any form. That there's a fraudulent misrepresentation. Simply, if somebody lies for personal gain or your loss, that's a lie. That's fraudulent misrepresentation. Then assaults can be anything from shaking a fist, making incendiary comments, remarks, gestures. Basically anything that incites fear, alarm or distress. So it can even be a threat of violence. So if the police threaten you with, for instance, I'm going to search you, I'm going to arrest you, I'm going to detain you, that there, if it's unlawful and they don't have lawful excuse, that there then is criminal
assault.
Yeah. Then harassment, now this is one that we really need to start using and looking at. Basically, we all can make honest mistakes. However, once it's been pointed out to you that it's not acceptable the way that you're behaving, and you do it more than twice, once you're with that information that it's not acceptable, or what a reasonable person would consider reasonable conduct. That again is a breach of of a person's peace.
I think we are experiencing so much harassment at the moment, aren't we? The harassment it can start from as simple as, are you wearing a face mask? Why aren't you wearing a face mask? You're being harassed over something. To, as we say again, this heavy-handed police presence is making people genuinely feel harassed in their day-to-day life.
And causing alarm and distress. You know, parents with the kids at school are asked to wear masks, testing, so many of these things. One interesting one which many people are not familiar with is the definition of stalking. Now bear in mind this comes from the legislation website. So again, the same concept of harassment more than twice. And basically following somebody, watching or spying, or forcing unwanted contact by any means, including electronic.
Stalking's one that I think is worth us exploring, because I think that if you mention the word stalker, people would anticipate that to be someone is following me. But stalking is any form of being a predator, basically. And all this amount of electronic almost call it supervision and infringing on someone's rights is that you're told that the cameras are there to protect you. When what they're actually really doing is they're taking away all your rights of privacy, aren't they?
Yeah, but basically it's stalking, what the government's doing with all the electronic surveillance, which is actually illegal according to their own legislation. And we'll be looking at this a little bit more in detail later. So battery is actually physically, there's battery.
Physical contact.
So physical contact without the person's permission. So for instance with contact sports, that wouldn't be deemed battery, and the reason is very simple, because we've consented.
It's an acceptable part, so it's consented,
So actual bodily harm then is if there's scratches, bruises or white marks, and grievous bodily harm is if there's a particular violence, but it's premeditated, or if there's a weapon involved.
And again, if we take this back to the police actions, the amount of time that they physically restrain someone, often unnecessarily, and then even handcuffing someone, if a person has stepped back and said, under duress,
Yeah.
I accept obviously that you've decided you're going to make an arrest to me. But if they then force that person's arms behind them and handcuff them, that is actually classed as actual bodily harm, isn't it?
Yeah. So again, it depends on have they got lawful excuse to do that,
Yeah.
and every single time they do.
But it's
something,
not just the unlawful reasons that they may be arresting you in the first place, it's the
Correct.
actions that they go on to take. So
Absolutely.
even if obviously both parties have decided, okay, the arrest is going to take place, do they then have to physically handcuff you?
They don't
And
need to physically handcuff you.
We've
We'll
all
come
seen
on to
many
that.
examples of shame as well, where they put people almost into the back of a van that looks like a dog being put into a dog cage.
All of it is to generate fear and intimidation and stop
Absolutely.
people standing on their rights. And
Indeed.
remember, whoever stands on their rights harms no one. And we'll be going on to looking in more detail at these unlawful actions, such as unlawful searches, unlawful arrest, unlawful detention. And there's one which also we'll be looking at is inadmissible evidence, and that basically is any form of oppressive treatment. So any statements you make in detention, if there's bullying, threatening, manipulation, forcing answers, confessions, that is all inadmissible, it's all unlawful. But we'll cover that in more detail.
Just to make note as well, the reason why I say during the introduction that there are further resources is that there will be paperwork that will be joining the video recordings, and there are many further resources where people can look into.
Yeah.
Good.
Great.
Thank you.